I'm starting to wonder about individual liberty, because that's something I've always been behind. But then I started thinking, well, okay, but has individual liberty to an extreme allowed some of the issues that we're facing today, which is anybody can move here and start to practice their religion differently, and we're having these issues with Islam because of the individual liberty of those people who have come to this country?
You make an extremely valid point, but of course it's like the Irish from Kerry. I wouldn't start from here. When he was asked for the directions to Tipperary, I wouldn't start from here. So of course I wouldn't be starting from here, because what we have done, we have opened our doors to people who do not respect our constitution, do not respect the Toleration Act. I mean, I can't that we have religious groups in this country now who wouldn't give the Toleration Act the time of day, and it was designed to be inter-Christian, as it were, if you will.
But that's their individual liberty, isn't it, for them to come to this country and not respect the
But if you whether it's treatment of women, the concept of the ownership of women, for example, and of course it was quite an interesting comment that Winston Churchill made. I think it was in 1902. His Blood River, his Blood River, the Battle of the Blood River, and so on and so forth. And his book, which he said, well, Muslims are wonderful, members of the empire. They're excellent soldiers for Her Majesty. He said, but I'm not sure how we're going to actually integrate people who believe in the concept of the ownership of women, and several women. And that was in 1902, coming from Churchill, who was an arch conservative in his own way. And it's as true today as when he wrote it all those years ago, 150 years ago, 140 years ago. So what we need to do is say, this is our constitution, this is what we believe in this country, and we believe in freedom of the individual. But if you want a different culture, a completely different culture in this country, and you come from another country, you really have to go back to that other country. You shouldn't be here.
Which isn't then the freedom of the individual, because they're not allowed to have these thoughts. You can't have the concept of freedom of the individual is that you can't impose your will on other people. You see, this is the thing. A libertarian, providing that Mises von Mises makes this very point, a member of the Mises Society, but basically, you can do what you like as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else. So as long as it doesn't impact on anybody else. And it gets back to getting into trouble sometimes. But if you want to smoke marijuana, for example, which I don't, nobody's really business if you want to smoke that in your drawing. I didn't mean to offend you when I offered it to you.
Way wacky. So no, I do believe that it's people to do, and Lord Salisbury. You see, go back to conservatism, true conservatism. You go back to Lord Salisbury. Wonderful quote when the world was, pressing, or Methodism was pressing for temperance societies were pressing in 1890, I think, the early 1890s. And here's a wonderful quote, and you find it in the Oxford Book of Quotes. He said, "It is the right of a free-born Englishman to get as drunk as he likes, whenever he likes, but not to get as drunk as he likes and beats his wife or beats the neighbour." By hang's difference. It's only a matter of common sense, Andrew, I think. It's a matter of common sense.
Well, it is. And look, I'm on side with you on this, but I'm trying to devil's advocate it. And I think the what we're saying is, tolerance, apart from for everything but intolerance. We don't want to tolerate the intolerance of a different. But what the other side to us would say and do say is that our side is intolerance. And therefore, so they're saying we're tolerant of we're tolerant of the trans and of this and that, and Godfrey Bloom and Andrew Gold are not tolerant, and that's where we're no longer. So we're both saying the same thing to one another. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do, and it was wonderful in the Profumo case. What was it? The blonde lady, I can't remember her name now. Long ago. But the prosecuting counsel looked over at his glass and said, "You do realise that Mr. Profumo denies that?" And she looked over. She got her spectacles out, and she put her spectacors on, and she looked across back at this top QC and she said, "Well, he wouldn't he?" And that's sort of saying, "You're the intolerant one." Well, they would say that, wouldn't they?
Yes.
We're the intolerant ones, and yet we're the ones that want to maintain the principles of English law, our constitutional monarchy, and all these things that we want to. I mean, isn't a definition of intolerance, I would argue, was silently praying. A woman was arrested for last year, silently praying. Oh, come on! Let's get a tolerance understood. What is tolerance? Tolerance is letting people silently pray. If it's not that, what is it?
That was outside an abortion clinic.
Yes, it was.
Gosh, it was a bit nuts, wasn't it?
Mad. And of course, the standard of policemen, of course, you get these days, bless them.
I feel sorry for them because it's quite complex, this whole thing.
It is. I used to feel sorry to them because I've got a lot of friends of old school policemen up there in Yorkshire at the rugby club and stuff like that. Very good drinking mates indeed.
This bloody rugby club, it's got all sorts.
That's the benefit of a good old-fashioned 100-year-old rugby club.
Yeah.
It's a very eclectic mix of drunks.
Do you play?
I used to.
What position?
Well, of course, I scrum half. I would be, wouldn't I? I'm a little gobby guy. Number 9.
Yeah. Well, fair enough. Were you good?
No.